players. I'm Miss Lansky, of course, if you already knew that. We're going to go over some hand position and assembly stuff just about your trumpet. And if you guys have any problems with this or trouble along the way, something doesn't sound right, look right, feel right, you can always bring your trumpet to me and I will be happy to help you kind of fix that and kind of correct some of those things and issues if they ever come up. You're always welcome to come and find me on a lunch hour. If you need some extra help, I'm always happy to help. Okay, so basically, trumpet, super easy to put together. You just need your mouthpiece and your trumpet. You guys have a really, really easy job to put things together. You don't have to worry about putting a whole bunch of pieces together like a clarinet would and a reed and things like that. You just have your mouthpiece and your trumpet. So everything comes together for you already in your case. You just need to add your mouthpiece in there. Important thing though, when you are assembling or taking your instrument apart, you want to make sure that you're not forcing things together. Seems like a very basic thing to do, but this is a very common thing to happen, especially with beginner trumpet players. And basically, the only thing that you need to do to put your trumpet together is you take your mouthpiece, you drop it into your lead pipe. That's the pipe on your trumpet that your mouthpiece fits into. And you basically give it a little bit of a twist. That's it. You don't need to push it in there. You don't need to jam it in there. You don't need to pound your trumpet mouthpiece in there at all. This same thing goes for all brass players as well. That one little twist with your mouthpiece, I'll do it again, slow motion. Put it in, slowly line it up, give it about a half a twist, done. Okay, that's it. So the main issue that I find with a lot of beginner trumpet players is they think, wow, this makes a really cool sound if I slam my hand down on my mouthpiece. Well, when you're doing that though, you're actually pushing your mouthpiece further inside of that lead pipe. And what will eventually happen is metal is not indestructible. It is quite malleable. It will dent, it will expand. It will eventually get thin enough to break and to cause big problems with your instrument. So what happens is if you keep doing that repetitively over and over and over again, you're actually causing like an airlock inside of your trumpet when you're doing that. And your mouthpiece is getting farther and farther pushed inside. So what will eventually happen is if this gets stuck to the point of it not coming out, if you're trying and trying and trying and you can't get your mouthpiece out, that's a big repair. So there is a tool that I would need to use to get that mouthpiece out. And then every time you have to use that tool to pull your mouthpiece out, this is getting damaged. And what happens is the farther your mouthpiece gets pushed in there, that metal is now expanding inside. So your mouthpiece is going to have to go that far every time you put it into your trumpet. So if I eventually get this stuck so far down in there that my mouthpiece is almost not visible anymore, eventually your trumpet will need to go in for surgery. And you'll need to have that whole piece of your trumpet cut off and replaced. So basically, you may as well buy a brand new trumpet at that point because that's a very big repair to do. And sometimes, like once it goes that far, there's no going back. You can't fix it. So eventually, if your mouthpiece gets so stuck in there, they will have to actually cut off that whole piece of your trumpet and replace it, or else you might be asked to get a whole new instrument. So as tempting as it is, please don't slam your mouthpiece into your trumpet or into your brass instrument because that's going to get super stuck and eventually it won't be able to be fixed and you'll have to replace your instrument. So just being careful with how you're assembling your trumpet, super simple, drop it in, half twist, done. Okay, so when you're holding your trumpet, now for hand position, your left hand is going to hold the majority of the weight of your trumpet because your right hand works your valves. So you don't want to have your right hand worrying about holding your trumpet and balancing things because your right hand is going to have to worry about changing those different combinations of your valves when you're actually playing. So your left hand, very important, you're going to take your left hand, you're actually going to grab around the outside of those valves. You can grab pretty tight. You don't have to worry about being gentle here. You're not going to damage anything by holding that tight. And then this little ring that you have, this is called your third valve slide that your ring is connected to. And that's for your ring finger. That's going to go inside of that ring. If you can't quite reach that, this little screw on top of your slide is going to help that to adjust. So you can move it further away, you can move it closer. So put that kind of somewhere comfortable that you can reach it and then tighten up the screw again so it doesn't move or fall out. You want to have enough space between your ring and your valves that you can grab around those valves though. Some of you have a little hook for your thumb that's over here on your first valve slide, close to your valve number 1. That can be for your thumb there as well. If you don't, like I don't, I can just hold right around my valves that way. I'm going to hold there. My pinky is just going to kind of hang out there. So try not to tuck your pinky under. That gets really sore after a while, and that puts a lot of tension on your wrist and your arm. You don't want to tuck your pinky under your trumpet. Your right hand is going to be able to hold that just fine, or your left hand, sorry. So you don't have to worry about holding under with your pinky. It's going to feel like maybe you do, but you don't. So your pinky is just going to kind of hang around there underneath that ring around your third valve slide, and it's just going to stay there. It doesn't really have to do much. Okay, so that's your left hand of your trumpet. On the other hand, on the other side, you can see I'm just kind of holding around my valves, my ring fingers in my ring. Pinky is just kind of hanging out over on the side. Okay, so that's my left hand for my trumpet. And now for my right hand is going to be my valve hand. So I'm going to now hold underneath my valves. I'm going to kind of rest my thumb right around valve number 1, kind of underneath the pipe that my mouthpiece goes into, that lead pipe. And I'm going to gently rest my fingers on top of those valves. So whenever you're playing a valve instrument, a brass instrument that has valves on it, you always want to make sure that you're pushing your valves straight up and down. So you never want to start pushing valves sideways or kind of pushing on them sideways or kind of like hooking your fingers around them and trying to press them down, because they're going to get stuck inside. They're going to start pushing against that casing for the valve, and they're going to get stuck. And then when you have to go and use them, they're not going to work and they're going to be stuck down, or they're going to be really slow coming back up again when you're done. So always just valve straight up and down. You never want like flat fingers. Flat fingers are going to be awkward. You're not going to be able to play fast. You always want to use that fingertip and press straight up and down. So you're going to be able to play really fast stuff. You're going to be able to change really quickly. So you want to keep your fingers nice and flexible. Pinky, you do have this nice handy ring there. That would be if we were in a marching band. So if you had to walk and do choreography and dance moves while you were playing your trumpet, you would use this for your trumpet so it doesn't fall and flop all over the place while you were doing that. But since we are not in a marching band, we are not going to use this ring. We are going to keep our fingers on top of those valves, and our pinky is just going to sit on top of that ring. This is going to help us keep our fingers nice and straight, especially for that ring finger. So when you're pushing down your third valve, this is a very weak finger. So this finger is actually connected to your pinky. So if you try to move some fingers, this one's always going to move along with it. So this finger already has a tough enough time pressing things up and down by itself. So you'll notice while I'm doing that, my pinky is moving, even though I have nothing to press with my pinky. So in order for us to keep our finger nice and straight on our valve, straight up and down, by putting our pinky on top of that ring on our trumpet, that's going to help keep our hand in a good position to keep pushing that valve straight up and down. So that when you're using that third valve, it's going to be able to go straight up and down. Because the common thing is if you're pulling with that pinky here, that's going to kind of pull your finger sideways and it's going to make your valve stick, and it's not going to work properly for you all the time. So keeping your pinky resting on top of there, and then that's going to help your valves move a lot easier, and you're not going to get sticky valves whenever you're playing that. So finished hand position, when I'm playing, my left hand is holding the majority of my trumpet weight. Pinky is hanging around alongside of everything else down here. My right hand, I'm going to be pressing straight up and down on my valves. Pinky rests on top of the ring. On the other side, right, you guys can see around there again too. And my hand is just kind of, my thumb's resting here. Fingers are pressing straight up and down. Pinky is resting on top of that little hook, right? So that's your trumpet hand position, right? If you're looking straight at your trumpet, you're holding around this way. Valves are that way while you're playing. That's going to be out in front of you, okay? So that's kind of the basics about some hand position. Next video, I will go over how to make a sound and also some instrument care and cleaning, and we'll talk about spit valves and all of that fun stuff too. Okay, good luck.